All right, Giants lost to the Detroit Lions. I'm Bobby Skinner talking Giants, and this game reaction is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. Check out the link in the description for up to 40% off. Ugly game all around for the New York Giants. They lose 18-31, and I think it just sucked from about every single angle. But I usually don't start it off talking about one decision, but I think this decision, man, it can haunt the Giants for the rest of the season and haunted them in this game as well. The decision to let Adoree Jackson be the punt returner for the New York Giants. I mean, it's a reported that he sprained his MCL, which is a 3 to 5 week injury. That was one of those rare things where, like, the Giants were winning. I criticized that, and everyone else agreed. Which you criticize a head coach of a winning team in the first year, and you're going to get a lot of backlash. Everyone agreed. Like, I didn't meet one person that thought, hey, let's fix the Richie James fumble issue by putting Adoree Jackson out there. Adoree Jackson has missed games every single year of his career. Dexter Lawrence has been the best player on this defense. I think Adoree Jackson is by far the most important player on this defense, and even more so when you have Xavier McKinney not playing the center field position. What was the reward on that? The risk outweighed the reward by a mile, by 10 miles. And that could be a season tanking injury. And now Fabian Moreau, he left the game. We don't know what the severity of his injury is, but that is unreal. Putting him back there, punt returner. What's the reward? I don't like. You can't get somebody out there that can just catch the ball. I mean, you're putting David Sills as a healthy scratch every single week. Why can't we go out and get a special teamer who is his only job is to just catch the punts? Catch the punts and return the ball 5-8 yards. The way they did, they signed Pharaoh Cooper last year. You can keep Richie James on the roster as the backup slot wide receiver, which you're going to need now. And you just get rid of David Sills. It's the risk outweighed the reward by just so much, and it never made sense. And that's horrible. Now, other than that, I think this game was more about the players than it was the coaching. Basically everyone sucked in this game besides, surprising enough, the wide receivers for the most part didn't do a horrible job. We'll start with the quarterback because that's always on the top of people's mind. Daniel Jones, 27 of 44, 341 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Obviously, a lot of garbage time yards in there. The first interception was just bad. I know, like, well, the defensive guys make a play. Aiden Hutchinson drops back into coverage. I remember like the TJ Watt interception at the beginning of 2020. That's one where it's like, man, that's just a hell of a play by TJ Watt. I don't think this was really that from Aiden Hutchinson. Like, he dropped back right into the line of sight of Daniel Jones. And if DJ just holds onto that ball for like just that more of a second, that's a chunk play. Instead, just kind of, I don't know if he thought he could get the ball over him or didn't see him, which might even be a little worrisome because it wasn't his line of vision. We're not talking about a guy, coming from the backside or anything like that. Was right in his line of vision. The second one was just a flat out miss, which is worrisome, but it was also on 4th down and it didn't turn into 7 points or any points for the Lions. So it's not as consequential, but nonetheless, you don't want to see your quarterback just flat out missing on a 4th down. And then towards the end of the game, Isaiah Hodgins fumbled, and that led to 14 points. I mean, they got 14 points off of an 18-yard drive and a 33-yard drive off of the turnovers by Daniel Jones and then Isaiah Hodgins. So you get 14 points to a team, and a Giants team that has really no margin of error and a bad run game. You're going to lose that game, and that's why this game was just so ugly. Saquon Barkley had 3 negative runs out of his 15. His longest run of the day was 4 yards. He had 5 carries for 4 yards in the second half. They just could not get anything going in the run game. They tried running out of some lighter formations this week instead of getting heavy, and that didn't work. And Feliciano looked really bad in the run game. Parrott, Tyree Phillips, he got injured. Parrott came in for him, had a couple bad run blocks. And then pass blocking wise, since we're talking about the offensive line, I mean, Shane Lemieux was really, really bad in pass blocking and got benched for Ezeudu, which I was intrigued to see what Shane Lemieux was, but I would not have benched Ezeudu. Like, Ezeudu played in the second half, so if he was healthy enough, I don't understand the idea. I like them correcting it at least, but I thought Shane Lemieux was playing because Josh Ezeudu was just going to miss the game. And after that first drive of the game, I even tweeted out, I was like, is Ezeudu healthy enough to play? Because Lemieux looks bad. Ezeudu's your young guy. He's the one you're invested in. Like, I would love to see that Lemieux could turn into like a solid rotational piece in the offensive line as a backup. But Zudu's your young guy. He needs the playing time. So I was a little frustrated at that. And Feliciano looked really bad. Now he left injured. Nick Gates actually looked good in pass pro, which he had not done since he came back. I still worry, like, how does he look holding up against nose tackles in the run game? So what we've yet to see that, because they were throwing the ball once he became in at the center. But he did look good in pass pro, like really good, a lot better than John Feliciano. So I'm all in on the start Nick Gates as center. Obviously, Andrew Thomas played really well. But Shane Lemieux, once Ben Bredeson comes back off IR, which I think he's eligible after this Thanksgiving game versus the Cowboys, Ezeudu has to play, obviously. I think Gates should get this call at center. And then the question is, are you willing to put Ben Bredeson over Mark Lewinsky, who hasn't played well this year? But nonetheless, Saquon Barkley, 15 carries for 22 yards, 1.5 yards per carry on the day. He didn't look good regardless. And then obviously the offensive line contributed to that as well. Wan'Dale Robinson had the first 100-yard receiving game for the Giants. And on that play, it looks like he has a serious knee injury. There's no report out yet, but that's definitely not good. And then on the defensive side, I don't think the defense was totally horrible. And then you get 14 points off turnovers, and they just weren't as good as they had been in the red zone and third down. And when you rely on third down and red zone defense, eventually you're gonna have a game where it just doesn't line up. And this was that game where I think we just kind of got outplayed. Like 0 sacks, 3 QB hits, no turnovers for this Giants defense. Now, the Lions' offensive line is really good, and Dex and Leo had some plays here and there. They didn't play terrible or nothing, but they weren't the force that they had been this season, at least Dexter Lawrence. And Jared Goff had time to step up, make some throws. But even then, like, Goff only completed 2 passes over 10 yards. Their passing offense wasn't killing us. They kind of had some nice trickeration that they got going. And then in the run game, our D-line wasn't dominant. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, they weren't dominant enough. And then our linebackers just, they aren't good regardless. And the Lions have a good O-line. Some other stuff I want to hit on. But again, this reaction is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. It holds up to 10 cards plus room for cash money, straight cash money. The wallets have over 50,000 5-star reviews. The Ridge team is so confident you'll like it that you'll let you test drive it for 45 days. You can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. I wish we could have test drove Kenny Golladay, who had a catch, and the crowd actually went wild for him, which was kind of funny and ironic. But for the defense, like I said, 0 sacks, 3 QB hits, no turnovers for the Giants defense. Had some big third down let-ups. And then they were just letting the Lions get some on-schedule stuff that Adoree Jackson and Fabian Moreau kind of shut out before this game. And now you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can face, like, you put Amon-Ra St. Brown on the outside versus the Giants, he's not going to win because Adoree Jackson is going to shut him down. Adoree Jackson goes out beginning the game. Well, he catches 7 catches on 8 targets. So he can work from the slot and the outside, and when he's working from the slot against the Giants, there's going to be linebackers dropping out and just different looks. And that allows a guy to move the chains for the Lions. He had a couple third down catches. And again, like, our linebackers were just way worse than their offensive line, and the defensive line wasn't dominant enough. So I thought Love actually had some bad plays in the run game too, especially in the red zone. So, hey, clean this loss up. Thanksgiving game. I know none of us are feeling great about this Giants team right now. 7-3, you take a step back, and that's good. But this was a game where even the Giants lost. They shouldn't have just got totally outclassed, and they got totally outclassed in this game. So like and subscribe to the channel. We have a podcast out. O-line report should actually be interesting this week. Break down Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, maybe even Parrott, and give a little Thomas segment for good measure. So appreciate you guys. See you next. Let's go Big Blue.